Hey guys, today we're going to work on symmetrical painting. And if you remember symmetrical painting from way back, we talked a little bit about symmetrical whenever we talked about balance. So symmetrical is the same on both sides, and in this case it's going to be the same on 8 sides. So you're thinking about something and dividing it by 8. This looks very cohesive at the end of it, and it will make it look very, very balanced. So what we're going to be doing first is getting a 12 by 12 sheet of paper, and we're going to fold it in half into a triangle. So first things first, fold your paper into a triangle. Sometimes I have to get up to be able to see if the corners match or not. So if you have to stand to be able to do this, that's fine. Fold it again. So you folded it once in a triangle, and then you're folding it again in another triangle. And then one more time. So you're folding it 3 times. That's how you're going to get the balance out of this. So essentially, all you're really making is one picture and you're repeating it several times. So I'm going to start out with a seascape. I want to kind of do an underwater type feel. So I'm going to start with a fish. I'm going to do a fish right here maybe. Have his little eyeball. And then what I want to think about is what's going to be around my fish. Seaweed. Think creatively about the way things are going, where they are in your triangle. Maybe a seashell right here. Notice that I'm making my sections really big, some bubbles. I'm thinking about where everything is, but you're also going to have to paint this, so you don't want to make like really tiny details. It's going to look very detailed when you get done. So even though this looks really simple, it's going to look more complicated when I get done. So I'm going to make some more seaweed over here. There we go. Maybe some of that. And to fill up some space, maybe some more bubbles. Maybe a bubble right here. I think that looks pretty good. So what you can do is after you're done with your design, you're going to take it and unfold it. Now notice that I said you're going to have 8 different sections. That's exactly what you have. You have a paper that's divided into 8s. So what you're going to do next is actually you're going to repeat this over and over and over again throughout your square. So I'm going to fold it in half so that my design is on the outside of my piece. So you can see my design's on the outside. Flip it over, and if you hold it up to the light, or if you put it next to the window, you're going to be able to see through the paper. So what you're going to do is you're going to trace. Notice that if I fold it in half, even if I trace it over here, it's going to be on the same side of the paper as my original drawing. So that's what you really want, is to make sure that all your drawings are on the same sheet of paper. So if I repeat it over here, I can take it and like, I'm gonna put an X saying I repeated it there. So if I repeated it there and I flip it over this way, both my designs are gonna be on this side, and then I'm gonna be able to see them on this opposite end. So really you just wanna make sure your designs are on the same side of your paper, and say that that's my design. I'm gonna flip it over this way, maybe this way. Sometimes you have to think about it a little bit. So that way, I know I can be able to copy these 2 designs on this side, and these 2 designs on this side. So I'm gonna have this done, because they're on this side, I'm gonna have this done, and this done. So that means that my entire paper will be done by then. So that's just to show you that you need to be able to flip your paper around and be able to trace it on the other side. You can trace this because it is your own drawing, not because it's somebody else's drawing, because this you made yourself and you're repeating it 8 times. So how that's going to look whenever you're done is it's going to look something like this. So this is my design repeated, and I can already tell I need another circle right here. What I suggest you don't do is that. Take it and flip it over and see where your space is going to be. The reason why I say that is because a lot of people, whenever they're trying to trace, they'll be like, this is a lot of work, and I don't want to go up to the window, or I don't want to hold my paper up. I'm just going to draw it again and again and again. You're not going to get a perfectly symmetrical piece that way. You're going to have to draw, you're going to have to trace it to be able to get it exactly right each time. So make sure I know that it's weird for me to ask you to trace it, but it's your own drawing you're tracing, so you need to make sure that you trace it and not just try to draw it each time, because it's going to look different each time. This way you know it's going to look the same each time you draw it, okay? So once you get that done, you can start on paint. So I have a little bit of paint here. Like I said before, 1 pump of each paint. You don't need a whole lot of paint. What's going to happen is you're going to get paint all over your palette, and then you're going to waste paint by putting it down the drain, and you're not going to have enough room to be able to mix paints. For this project, I want you guys to make your own paint colors. I want you to make your own colors. Do not use the colors out of the bottle. What you're going to have to start out with is a couple of primary colors, but we'll eventually get more colors in. So I know I want my seaweed to be green, but I want it to be like a blue green. Or no, excuse me, a yellow green. I want it to be light. So I'm gonna use a lot more yellow than blue. And like I said, I'm mixing it on my palette. Don't forget to mix it on your palette. Trying to find the green. And don't forget, whenever you're mixing and you're putting your paint on your paper, it turns out lighter on your paper whenever it dries than it is in your palette right then, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and paint in my seaweed. Try to keep this color for as long as you can. Go around and make sure you're doing a second coat. So what I would do is just kind of make my seaweed here, have my 1 coat, and then go on to my next seaweed. And while this seaweed is drying, I'll be doing my other seaweeds, and then I can just come back whenever I'm done and do the second coat. So instead of like making the color and then trying to get all the colors in this one square done, I'm actually thinking ahead about which colors I want to use where. And that way I don't have to mix the color 5 times. I'm just mixing 1 color, and I'm using it everywhere I want to use it on the paper. That way you don't have to remix colors, because if you're mixing your own colors like I want you guys to do, you're actually going to have a hard time mixing the color again. So finding that same color again is actually kind of difficult. So make sure you're thinking about using 1 color over and over and over again until you need the next color. So make sure you get your color down, then use the next color, and so on and so forth. This way it's going to make it very, very even. You're going to have the same color all the way around. It's not going to look different, because the goal of this assignment is for everything to look the same. Remember, it's going to be the same on equal sides. So you want your paint strokes to be even. You want your colors to be the same all the way around, and if you have to remix them, like I said before, it's going to be a different color. I know I've repeated that several times, but it bears repeating, believe me. So do the same thing as you did with your color wheel. You want nice even strokes. You want at least 2 coats. And you're going to think about details. Like after you're done, you can start thinking about details in your piece. So putting this one aside for just a second, you can kind of see some of my examples. They put the paint down and then they went in with some detail work afterwards. This is not with pen, this is all with paint. So they thought about what they're going to be doing and going back into detail later. This person put down purple and decided to put their lines back in later with a little bit of white. They also outlined their flower in blue. So you can think about those kind of details after you get your layers done and you want to outline some things, okay? So good luck, guys. That was really quick. Let me know if you have any questions.